Welcome back to Do Yourself a Favour. I am again in Alvin's amazing apartment, and this is our first ever on the bed edition. I love that Alvin's having my first editions because, he's worth it. We decided that it's both an interesting way of sitting, but also a bedroom has a lot more soft stuff. And for those of you that know about audio, you'll know that this should be our friend.
That's right. And just to be clear, this is not an After Dark version.
It's not an After Dark version for so many reasons.
So many reasons.
So I would like to welcome my friend and genius, Alvin Quah, to the podcast today. As many of you will know, he's a celebrity chef, but the thing that I think I most love about Alvin is his ability to write about useful topics in a clever, interesting, but more than anything, heartfelt way. He has been posting on LinkedIn recently, and so many people have enjoyed the quality of his writing, the heart of his writing, the usefulness of his writing, and he's really making an impact. We thought today we would talk about a topic that gets a lot of airtime, but not a lot of what it's meant to be, which is authenticity.
It's certainly a passion topic of mine, so thank you for allowing me the space. And I think authenticity is often very it's widely used, like I know it's such corporate speak now. Companies saying bring your authentic self to work, we love the authenticity. I find it very challenging in a good way to sort of decipher what exactly does authenticity look like in the corporate world, firstly, and also, like a lot of us sort of wear masks, right? Like anywhere we go, we have filters on, like how we edit ourselves. And I feel like more so in a workplace.
Yes, I think so too. And I think this is a perfect conversation for a number of reasons. One, I think the timing is perfect. If you look at what people are talking about online, what human beings care about, elements like psychosocial risk coming into the conversation and into the
psychological safety,
right,
that sort of type of thing as well.
And psychological safety alone, to actually have that in place would be, for me, in a corporate world, it would be incredibly unusual to have true psychological safety in place.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's because there's so many layers in the corporate world, right? Like it's all, like at the end of the day, like I used to be in the corporate world, and I usually tell people that, like we're not working for a non-profit, like we don't work for a church, like we, at the end of the day, the bottom line, like sort of matters. Which is fine, but I think when it's not fine is it comes with a cost of yourself. So like when you have to be an inauthentic version of yourself, when you have to sort of put in airs and graces, when you have to sort of put in a brave face, or whatever the code switch that you have to do, I think that's when it's not okay.
Yeah, because it can be literally life destroying, actually.
Yeah.
I talked recently with Tammy Tansley on here, and we were talking about the damage that can be done when people don't lead well, in that one can think, oh, if I'm having to put on a face at work, or I'm stressed at work because I can't be myself, and we'll define self more because that's a very interesting part of this conversation. If I'm going to bring my whole self to work, what does that actually mean? What does that look like? But this idea of, people will rationalize, oh, well, if work's a bit stressful, you go home and relax and you get the money you get and it's all worth it. But from what I've seen in my profession, if things are not safe at work, it destroys the person's whole life.
It does. And we often forget that because we spend so much time at work, and like some people might spend more time with their colleagues than their partners, which is a whole new other topic in itself. But if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel like you could be genuine, if you don't feel, and we're not talking, let's shave off all the boundaries at work. Like it's not about that. I think it's about the the feeling of being able to express yourself, to use your values and translate that into a very relatable version at work. And that's when I think people, and that to me is what authenticity is about.
Yes, so I agree. So I think neither of us think of authenticity in terms of just doing and saying whatever we want at any time, appropriate or inappropriate. I think authenticity and what has people feel at ease, being able to be themselves. For me, the biggest thing is my work a values match for me?
Yeah.
And am I safe to be the difference that I am, the quirkiness that I am? Am I safe to have some level of emotion? Am I safe to have some level of anxiety? Is there someone I can talk to that will have me feel that way? There's a saying that I love, people join a company and leave a boss. And
Yeah.
certainly my experience of psychological safety at work has often been, it's not that the company feels safe as a whole, but the person leading me feels safe, and they almost create an umbrella of safety.
Oh,
Have you had that?
Yeah. And I actually find that I have times where I would stay in a company, even though the company was sort of falling in the seams, but the fact that I had such a good boss that made me feel safe, the psychological sense, like the stability sort of sense, it just makes you feel like you're protected, like that umbrella. And I guess in a similar sort of experience like I had when I first joined my first pharmaceutical company, it was so strange. I was there for a good 9 years or so, and then the culture just started changing, and I didn't feel like I could be myself. You were saying like your quirky self or like that little creative bent that a lot of us have, and it didn't feel safe for me to do that anymore without feeling like I was being judged. And the funny thing was, you might not know it when you're going through it. It's almost like an invisible enemy. But what you feel is a general unease, and also, if I dare say, it's like a general exhaustion, because you constantly feel like you are being challenged and you're constantly going to battle, but you can't see the wall, like nothing's. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I so know what you mean.
And contrast to that is my last company that I was with. Like it was like I was given like a long leash to basically sort of do a lot of things, and mistakes were seen as a growth opportunity rather than a punishment.
Wow.
And the difference that makes to my psyche,
Oh,
and you just and that's what I feel like, what I could be like, my true self. And I often say that authenticity isn't rawness, it isn't stripping the filters, it's about putting the right filters on. Like it's just about it, it's such a massive sort of topic.
yes,
Like it's as vast as the ocean, and you can just keep talking about it.
I know. But what you said brought up a couple of things for me, because, of course, I've thought about authenticity a lot, and it's something that I really kind of bang on about and try and be quite authentic, appropriately, and I'm sure at times inappropriately. But, when I think you and I were having the conversation, and I was talking to Carly Lyon about it as well, this idea of what is edited authenticity.
Yeah.
When I hear edited, I feel constrained, but actually there's a way I can look at edited authenticity where I don't feel constrained. And the way that I put it was, if you are coming from a word we don't use in the corporate world, if you are coming from love in your authenticity, it will have you be considerate, appropriate, generous.
Yeah.
You're not going to trauma dump authentically if you're coming from love, because if I'm being my true self, but I have the filter on, does this serve Alvin? Does this serve the team? Does this serve the company? For me, it's a very actually quite a simple and easy way to
Yep.
decide what is appropriate authenticity.
Yep.
One of the things is that I think can often be missing at work is really clear boundaries around what expectations are. How do we do things around here? What is appropriate or not? What do we want our culture to be? And, you know, when I'm coaching or training people, one of the things I very commonly say is love and boundaries. So when you're dealing with a tricky person, say this person comes to work and is banging a particular drum that it's not an appropriate time to bang, I will say to the person leading them, you can come at that person with absolute love and respect and just make it clear to them what's okay or not. But we've got an extra challenge, because if you look at one of the things that my clients are talking to me a lot at the moment is generational differences. And you and I come from a different culture. So that's one whole piece, which we can refer to around authenticity. We are of a similar age, which means we have a way of working that you've commented on before, where we really do our jobs and we put a lot of ourselves into it, and we're very well behaved. And one of the things that is very tricky around this authenticity piece, particularly at the moment, is we've got a whole new generation coming through that thinks that they can do what they like, and they have been very well loved. And when our generation gets frustrated with them, I say, well, they are your children.
Yes.
And of course, that's a wonderful thing that they have this self-esteem and this confidence. But what it can do is tip over into disrespect, into inappropriate authenticness. And for me, what the great difficulty for the current manager is, you have to set boundaries, set boundaries, set boundaries. And it can be absolutely exhausting to remind the person again and again, this is the rules. I get you don't want to do it, but you're at work now.
And the other piece, you just sort of triggered my thought there. Like, the other piece is, like, people often mistake an authenticity for just being loud and bold, you know, like, and the other sort of missing piece there is the cultural differences as well. You know, like, you come from, you know, like, say, an Eastern culture where, you know, like, they are generally more withdrawn, like, they are more submissive, they don't necessarily say anything, they have opinions, but they might not share it because they don't want to challenge authority.
That's right.
You know, like, how does authenticity look like to them? Like, you know, like, what does that mean integrating into a society where we champion people who give their opinions? You know, like, does that mean, like, I'm going to go there and think I'm not my authentic self, or they don't think I'm my authentic self because I'm not speaking up?
Yes, if authenticity is defined the way you said, if I'm authentic, I'm assertive in the stronger sense, I'm loud, I'm extroverted, I'm opinionated, but someone from a culture where respect is key, thoughtfulness is key, hard work and quietness is key, that is their authentic self. And for me, when you say that, the impetus lies on the more dominant culture to understand and respect. I don't know about you, but one of the things I've learned in my career is that I really misunderstood the power of introverts. I'm old enough now and interested enough now and open enough now to recognize, if you have an introvert in a meeting, set it up so that they have information prior, they have time to think, they have time to feedback, because they are going to have your best idea.
Yeah, and it's so true, and it's so true, and a lot of workplaces are not designed for introverts. They are designed for the, you know, like, the squeaky wheel, like, essentially, like, it's such a, and I think it's through no fault of either parties, right? I think organizations tend to be swept away by the loud talkers, you know, like, the ones with the most opinions, not necessarily the right ones, but the most opinions. And you know, like, and especially when, I mean, you can just imagine if you have a person who is dynamic, and actually offers a lot of opinions, wrong or right opinions, it's so easy to get swept away and say, oh my God, yeah, let's go with that one, you know, like, and then forget, it's like, oh, does anyone else have an opinion to share? And there's, you know, that's the quiet person in the corner thinking, well, I don't really have all the information yet to process, and I need time to process the information because I do it methodically, or however way they sort of do it. You can tell I'm not an introvert. You know, like, it's just, it's they just need time.
They do need time, and you were very generous when you said, I think you said, I don't think there's anyone to blame. I'm not quite as generous. I think what happens is, if you imagine a corporate culture, certainly a traditional one, and we're still somehow, I don't know how, acting like we're in the times of the Industrial Revolution or Ford, where we all have to do these set hours in set places,
Yes.
hot desking, open plan offices. The disrespect for the sensitivities of people is extraordinary to me. And the reason I'm not as generous as you, or at least I certainly understand what's happening, so that can have me be more generous. If you have a go-getter come into a company and they want to get promoted, and they're often a D style in the disc model, they're often focused, action-oriented. The company loves it because that's where the money comes from. Let's get the goals done. They rise up through the ranks. We know people hire people who they like and can relate to. So leaders won't naturally create the most, I was going to say homogenous, but that's not the right word. What I mean is the most diverse yet positively conflicting team.
Heterogeneous.
Imagine, let's put it simply, I'm the leader at a company. You come in for an interview who I've never met before, a quiet, far less charismatic, but turns out to be better at the job. This would be the case with you, but just an example. How could I not hire you? Within 2 minutes, I'm going to be, oh my God, I love this guy.
We're all human, right?
We're all human.
Like we have certain wavelengths that we click with, and others you think, oh, this is the other piece there. I was just thinking about too, is certain departments or certain style of certain departments will employ certain style of employees. Like for instance, I was in medical for a long time.
Yes.
And I certainly stood up like a sore thumb, right? Like only because I am a lot more vocal, I'm extroverted, whereas I'm surrounded by colleagues who are introverted, like they're all about the detail. I'm all about like, let's just see the bigger picture.
Yeah. How long were you in medical for?
I was in the medical for a good 15 years.
Okay. So you've got your personality. You're working with people that are very analytical, quieter, detail focused. What did you bring to them or they bring to you, and how did you work together with such different styles?
It's very interesting. So I'm sort of living by the insights profile at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm yellow and red. So that is like big picture and direct. So when I'm stressed, I get more red. The red sort of flares up.
Yes.
And blue, which is like detail oriented, is my least sort of. And this was interesting, because when I was working medical, like everyone was high blue. Like my husband is high blue.
Yes.
I haven't done it on him yet, but I'm pretty sure he's high blue. So what I worked with, I think I was lucky in a sense that I managed to, a lot of the doctors that I work with and a lot of my colleagues that I work with, they're all blue, but they like me, so I could charm them, and they appreciate my zest and my enthusiasm, my energy.
Yes.
And I roll my eyes every time I deal with a blue person, but I do appreciate their level of detail.
Yes.
And I think when I was faced with that, working with a customer or colleague with that particular sort of branding, it sort of forced me to sort of temper my energy, and said, okay, let's hear them out. And I tell you, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy because, like the other one of my shortcomings is I'm not the most patient person.
Yes.
And with them, you really need to be patient and you really need to wait for them to. But how I see it is that I see everything now as chunks of stories. And so if you imagine them telling you a story, like all they're doing is they're adding all the rich detail. And then if you just sit back and bite your tongue and be patient, you see the whole picture, and it's this glorious story that they tell you. It's like, wow, that is like everything is detailed, sort of perfect. And you learn to love that. And also I'm envious of it because I can't give it that rich detail.
I love the way you explain that. And you know what it is? Actually, the thing that we're hoping or requesting that people that are more like us, more talkative, extroverted, assertive, as you tell that story, it's really what we're asking whole companies or certainly individual leaders to do. If they are more of the extroverted, go-getter, goal-oriented, fast-paced style, to one, appreciate the person that's not like that, but two, be clever about it. They have got so much gold. I gave the example before, and it's so simple, but it virtually never happens. If you're having a meeting with introverted staff and you know that they're thoughtful and detail oriented, if you give them the agenda early, ask the question in the meeting, but everyone knows that the action items will not come out until the people who need to ponder it have had a chance to, the gold that is missed out on. But the frustration for the thinking person, how often would these genius, detail-oriented people
get
think,
missed.
I can't contribute and I've got the info.
Yeah, and on the hiring process, I think it's very interesting. I think some managers have got it right. Like they hire not just based on the personality, and not just based on the skill set. Let's just say you're faced with two people, like identical skill set, but completely different personality, right?
Yeah.
I think the other layer that you need to sort of look at is the culture of the team. Like, so who would blend in better? And it's not extrovert versus introvert.
No.
You know, like it's like you need to look at the culture or the team dynamic. It's like, would person A match better or person B match better? And it's not about trying to find disruptors. Again, that's a completely different story.
Yes.
But it's I think the team culture is another layer that you need to sort of consider.
And the idea of, we know from all the data and all the studies and all the experience, you want to have constructive conflict. You don't want to have no
Correct.
conflict. You don't want to have destructive conflict. When I worked in Scotland many years ago, and of course we met in the pharma world, and I went to become a drug addict. I'm not one. Why was that Freudian?
It's like the bedroom. It's like what it brings out of people.
It does, because it's
Like
got there's a fur rug on the other end of the bed. That might have been it. So I went to become a drug rep again for the short time I was there, and the fellow that went to hire me, who was a very human oriented person, he said, look, I like the look of you, I like the sound of your experience, I want you to come and meet the team before I decide. Oh, it was very nerve-wracking for me. I literally had to go and have a coffee with 6 or 7 reps and go, hello, hope you like me. But it was a very clever move because I actually got to meet them. They got to meet me. They felt respected by their boss.
Yeah.
They felt like some ring-in wasn't coming in who just upset them. They gave me the tick of approval. He'd already given me the tick of approval, and off we went. And, of course, for me, it meant that I'd already met the people that were going to support me in this new role in a different country, and it was a very clever move.
It's very important, I think, you know, like not that we're talking about how to hire, but I think it's very important to sort of see how the new person will potentially sort of get along with your current team, because, you know, like it's very important.
It's key.
Like, I was reading this piece on LinkedIn today. Like it's you know, like, is it wrong to have like close friends as your colleagues? You know, like, does that mean you're stripping away boundaries? Like, no, I think the first thing that comes from that first is trust. It's not about stripping boundaries.
No.
Like, once you trust them and they become friends, then I feel like you work a lot better. Like you'd be able to sort of give, you know, constructive criticisms a lot better. And it's so important, that dynamic. It's so important.
Yeah, because it is psychological safety. And it's a perfect match for authenticity, because actually what has a team work well is where people can be themselves, can be their most empowered selves. And if we think about this theme of authenticity and what we've been talking about in the last few minutes, actually people being able to be accepted for their way as introverted, extroverted, louder, quieter, faster, slower, that's what this power of authenticity can be in its most powerful form. And of course, when we talk about this whole subject, one of the things that I've found incredibly frustrating is this subject banner, anything to do with communication, authenticity, personalities, value styles, the label of soft skills, and the dismissing of this subject and the dismissing of these skills. They're not soft.
The fact that they're called soft, like kind of makes you think, oh, that we can do without
We
that,
can do
when it
without
is
it.
so fundamental.
Financially, it's so fundamental.
And I it's such a pet hate of mine where people just dismiss soft skills as though it's not required. And it's like we are we are in an era where, like we're dominated by AI. Soft skills is what is going to set you apart.
It's going to
soft
be
skills.
the key. And the truth is, after many years of thinking about this topic and people dismissing soft skills, I used to think it was just a misunderstanding from a more technically focused person that they really didn't get the point because either they were insensitive themselves, like people can be, or they were goal oriented and didn't need to, in their mind, do any self reflection. But actually, I think it's deeper. I think that does run for the more logical person who's not up for self inquiry. But I think it's a very easy way to cover fear of looking. Because if you go eye roll soft skills, we know as human beings, we get messages from ourselves, no matter how blunt a tool we might be, that something's off. And I have had people say to me, I am not going there. They're terrified of even a slight inwards look. And that's why they're not soft. They're hard.
Yeah. And it takes more courage to look inward. Reflection is a very powerful thing. And the workplace, it's another piece that I read, like the workplace, they're so resistant to the word love, and not in the not in the traditional sense, like but they just don't know how to use it. It's like what you said earlier. It's like how you coach and how you train. It's like if you come from a place of love and good intention, like you can't. I have a great boss once tells me, it's like, I always like, even if their actions say something else, I always look at them and say, what's the intention behind it? If the intention is malice, then we have something to talk about, right? But if it comes from a place of good, it's like you just want what's good, then you learn to sort of, you can lead with a lot more impact, I think.
Absolutely. That boss was extremely clever because I say to my coachees or my trainees, if you can look at someone, I use the word love, if you can look at someone like your boss said or the leader said, with they are coming from somewhere good, or they have a reason that they're misbehaving, and you can honor them as you speak to them, you can actually say anything to that person or give them any feedback, because what they're getting as the sense from you and their limbic system, the defensive part of them, is getting, I am here for you. I care about you. I can see the good in you, and we have an issue.
And do you know the powerful thing about that is what you said before? It's like the minute that they sense that you are there for them, like you give them all the safety words or the feel that they get, like you get an unfounded level of loyalty. Like you just you will, and like and that traverses any generation of workers, whether you're ex millennial, like that sort of thing, because the minute they feel safe, like I had a manager once that sort of would ask me about like how my parents are, my mum, right? Like and would actually sort of remember that, like a few months later, and said, like, how's your mum? Like, and that to me is so you just feel safe. You just feel like, oh, this is someone I want to work with, because at the end of the day, they care.
They care,
right?
And you feel seen.
Yes, you
right?
feel seen.
You feel seen. And you mentioned before, and it's a good point to make, I use an unprofessional term that I made up myself, and I talk about reasonable and unreasonable people. And when people are unreasonable, what I mean by that is whatever feedback you try and give, whatever support you try and give, for whatever reason, normally out of their control, actually, they can't take it on. They behave worse. They cause more problems. They cannot take on the boundary. They can't feel the love. They're in a different state. Like, there's a world leader, starts with T, ends with rump, who is in a very different state. Interestingly, when he met the new mayor of New York, who's obviously very clever and emotionally intelligent, that fellow proved my point that if someone came at Trump, of course, who I'm talking about, with love and respect and understanding of there is a human being under all that mess, you'd see in the interviews post their meeting Trump saying he's a good guy. Even though he'd been against him, he stood for nothing that.
Yeah, and that's so important when whether you're leading people, whether you're working in a team, whether you're a solo practitioner, like all that. I think the intention of how you go about things, like if it's pure and honest and comes from a good place, then no one can ever fault how you do things. Do you know? It's almost like it's yeah, and it just goes back to the whole sort of authentic, way of being, right? Like it's I fundamentally believe that no one is born evil,
No.
right? Like they just and I think if you go back to your true core, your authentic self, everyone comes from a place of good.
I agree. What I would say as an asterisk is I agree, and that's for the far, far, far majority of people. There is an occasional person, I think, that just cannot access. At some point, it got interrupted, and they can't access that true self.
Exactly, and that, that is a fundamental flaw somewhere.
If something's happened, and it's a great tragedy for that person.
Yeah.
I used to, as a younger, how do you say younger? Yeah, younger. As a younger trainer, when I was more idealistic, I used to think, no, anyone can shift, anyone can be talked to. Actually, what I've realized is there are a percentage of people you can still feel empathy and care for them, but they are not going to shift, and you need to know when the point has come, if you're a leader, how to move them on. And Tammy Tansley and I talk about this, and not letting it drag and drag and drag. We were talking over dinner last night about an example that often happens. The person who cannot shift, is unreasonable and causes untold damage to their colleagues, is wrapped in a red bow and given to another department.
Yeah. It's like the special projects.
The special
projects.
It's
like, and why are you? It's like it's just not taking responsibility for your problem. It's like I'm just gonna give this to someone else. And I dare say workplaces are so good at doing this. Like it's almost like, oh well, that's great. And what it does, the ripple effect is people outside of that are going to think you are rewarding bad behavior. So you are dressing it like a promotion, right? And it could be a promotion. I've seen it happen where they get promoted and they get to be relocated overseas to some exotic land. So that's the signal that you are sending to the rest of your employees, right? It's like, okay, so if I behave badly, I disrupt badly, negatively, then I'm going to get promoted.
Yeah.
What does that say?
I know. And often it will be the more senior you've become, the more protection around actually being called out on the bad behavior. You'll get promoted, you'll get moved, you'll leave the company, but with a level of celebration or some language around it's a new level of success for the person. And of course, what it does is it protects people from having to be responsible. It protects people from having to be human. And there is a cultural agreement in the corporate world, certainly in the Western world, that the dollar is king. Everything can be couched under the term professionalism. It's just business. And having seen numerous lives literally ruined by the decisions that have been based on money or rationalizing that, well, this is just work, this is just business. It is not just business.
It's not just business. How can it just be business when you're dealing with humans?
That's right.
It's like they are humans. There are feelings involved. There are emotions, like the sensitivity that you need to sort of.
I know. Even the term which I talk about, the fact that human resources is called human resources. Have we not challenged the idea of that term? Okay, I've got my whatever I'm digging out of the ground or whatever I'm producing or whatever theory I'm selling, and then I have these resources that are human. The term for me is so dehumanizing that it helps with this whole idea of We don't need to. What love? Like, have you lost your
I
mind?
work with someone who's very high up there in terms of like seniority, so almost like C-suite state as well. And it's really funny. He refers to human resources HR, and at the risk of alienating myself from all HR listeners out there, I do love you. Um, he calls them human remains.
Oh,
which I find ridiculously funny at weird hours of the night.
do you know what? It's actually is useful under this piece of authenticity. When you said, HR people, I love you. If I was going to tell the truth, I would say there's a percentage of HR people that I love and make a profoundly positive difference.
Yes.
And there is a percentage that because of their literal young age or immaturity or misunderstanding what their role is or need to have that ego-driven power are hugely damaging.
Oh, preach, sister. Preach.
And honestly,
I've been like I've had periods of my life where I've been ruined by like HR employees, intentionally or not. I was like, wow.
But all they are is a microcosm of what we're saying. If the cultural argument in the corporate world is it's just business, we can do what we want for money. There is a set of procedures we're going to follow. We do not need to consider the human collateral. Then they are going to learn that lesson, act from that lesson, and the HR person coming from that will only be rewarded.
Yeah.
If the company works from that point of view, then being unempathetic, strict, demanding, bossy, ego-driven.
Do you think they'll ever change though?
So I was going to write an article. I haven't read it. I haven't written it yet. And I called it, Am I Sisyphus? Who, of course, continued rolling a boulder uphill.
God, I love Greek mythology.
That article you wrote, where was that published? Can people read it?
Met News. It's behind a paywall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some people will be able to access that, and that used Greek mythology. Have you heard of the comedic mob, Wankonomics?
Yes.
Okay. They came over to Perth and they're on a radio station promoting their show. And late in the piece, the lady said to them, but do you think this corporate side of things can change? And the fellow laughed and said, of course not. That's why we have to laugh about it. And I thought, I'm going to give the whole thing away. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. Because that feeling of, is there any point to this? Is anything actually going to change? We're talking about such a behemoth. But what I would say is, whilst there's a part of me that is cynical around things like LinkedIn and the algorithms and all the rest, I am, yourself included and some other very generous writers, I am starting to see a level of humanity, a level of challenge, a level of we must consider the humans. You made a very good point around AI. I think humanity is going to have to come to the forefront simply because there will be no other choice.
Yep. And I think yes, it's a behemoth of a subject, but there are pockets of humanity that I choose to. I think deep down, I always thought I was a pessimist, but I'm not.
No.
Like I think I'm an optimist.
I can't believe you thought you were a pessimist.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Maybe there was a conservatism that you misunderstood as pessimism.
Maybe, but I fundamentally think that people are good. Like it's really and that might make me gullible, but I do think that people are fundamentally good. Like look, the corporate thing is a beast, right?
Yes.
It's a beast, but within that beast there are little pockets of like goodness that I have latched onto in any workplace that I've worked with in the past, and like I've met beautiful people, and who remain friends for life, sort of type thing, and it's just things like that, people like that give me hope. It's like, okay, say what you must about the corporate world, but some of my best friends, I met in the corporate world, and talk about like bucking the trend, in that beast of a cold clinical sort of setting, I met people that I can laugh and be my true authentic self with.
Yes. And it's always a good reminder for me because I can especially when I'm upset, I can tip into they. And I remember Peter Slocum, when I had her on the podcast, who deals with a lot of senior people, I said, how do you just not get furious at them and how they're treating people. And she said, well, Tamara, one of the things that will get in your way is thinking of them as theys rather than individuals. And it's so useful for me or for you or for anyone. You can do it obviously better than me. But when I meet people, I have the same opinion. I think people are good. One of the things I do best is seeing the best in people. I generally have a fabulous time in life because I just keep bumping into people where there's love present because I expect them to be good, so they are. I occasionally get a very rude shock from someone that's not up for that, but it's very occasional. And I was saying to Andy, my husband, who's less naturally trusting, I said, look, I think I've got a much better approach. Like, I have a really good time and then I get disappointed. But if you look at it as a time frame, I'm spending a lot more time happy
Yes, that's
because
true.
I expect
They're
the
being wary.
best.
It's really funny because my sister is less trusting than I am. And I often wonder, and I've actually had this conversation with her before, and it's like, how do you go through your days and being so untrusting and constantly on your guard, like worrying what do they mean by that? It's like if you just take things sometimes at face value,
Yeah.
just be happy. Wouldn't that be a nicer way of going through life?
And what did she say?
She said no, she can't do it.
No, same as Andy. Because whatever belief systems become internalized, it's both habitual
Yes.
and it's too risky. And
Yes.
often there's sort of parts of us that connect together, I think, where the same part of me that will take a risk is that same part that'll go, I'm going to assume you're good, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to assume this situation's, we were talking about it last night. I got in touch with a very well-known person who had no reason to get in touch with me, but I absolutely thought they would. And I'm still holding out hope. And if you look at it logically, I have to go, hang on, it's very unlikely that they would get in touch with me. But the thing that has me reach out had me connect with Stephen Bodian, an internationally well-known literal guru, contact him to be on the podcast. He says yes. I get to have him on the podcast, which is coming out next week. And then I'm going to work with him at his school, and I'm going to have him as my teacher in the direct approach tradition. And that is the same nature, like you said, that when I'm going to be myself, put myself out there, I'm going to get a yes or a no.
And people surprisingly are very generous. So I think for every, I don't know what the percentage is, but let's for argument's sake, for every person that do not reply, another person will. And I remember when I finished MasterChef the first time round, I decided, like everyone else, have a blog.
Yeah.
And I ran out of ideas of what to put in a blog. So I approached like every chef I know and asked them to contribute a recipe. And then I had a content calendar for like a year.
Oh.
And because a lot of them actually say yes, like, and you never think they will, but then, like, I think humankind like surprise you sometimes in the most positive way.
I agree. I think people love to help other people and they really consider it an honor and they love to be asked. And this actually loops back very well to the idea of authenticity. If you think about when people have been real and particularly been vulnerable, the freedom that gives someone else to either be vulnerable themselves or appreciate the person's honesty or feel honored that they've been honest. I can think of times when people have shared things with me, say as a coach or as a friend, and I'm just so grateful and honored that they were willing to share their weaknesses or vulnerability. Yes, I created a space for that, but when one is brave enough to be real in the cliched corporate world, what they won't realize, because often people won't actually reply with their face or voice or anything, but in their self or in their heart or in their experience, they'll feel a little more at ease.
Yeah, and you need to take credit for that because you do create a very safe space where people can sort of talk and open up and be real and be authentic. There's that word again. And I've been with managers where the way they write their emails, you just think, what are you trying to say? And the way they communicate in meetings is like, what are you trying to say? So my previous role, I actually did a lot of advisory work to C-suites, general managers, and they would they say something and they want me to write the email, and they'll tell me what they want to write, and they'll say, like, I literally look at them and I tell, what is that? It's like, I don't understand. It's like, and if I'm going to put myself in the average employee's seat and read your email, then say something human.
Yes.
It's like, geez, it's
But-
not hard.
but-
Like, at what point did they just the entire grammar, like how they speak and how they phrase, and it becomes so jargonistic and so cold and clinical.
Yes.
It's like, dude.
Yes, we've run business writing for years, and Andy still runs it. And the hardest thing to get across to people is write in plain English, write as a human being, take out all the things that are difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Look, it's so easy to be empathetic for how people end up so cold and clinical because they have been rewarded for it from the beginning. They have gotten ahead. Everyone gives everyone else permission to be like that. In that post I did recently about listen up managers, if you can't deal with your shit, don't be a manager. I said there is a cultural agreement, don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
And it's not about US homosexuality in the army. It's about,
Yeah.
I'll be an a-hole, you be an a-hole. We'll cover it under the guise of professionalism. Neither of us are a-holes. We have a beating heart. We have a family we love. We're a good person. It's risky to show that, and I am living testament for how difficult it is to be on the bridge of cringe. I actually don't know how I've kept going apart from just enough chutzpah to go, it feels like I should keep going. I don't know where it's going to end, but I'm going to be truthful. Even the definition, I feel like let's try and make up, it's a bit instant, but we're quick thinkers. Because authenticity has been so muddied and a lot of people will get a bucket even at the word, what are we actually saying? I think, I'll start and you tell me what you think. I think when we're saying being authentic at work, I think what we're trying to say is being a generous, value-based, real person.
Yeah.
If I come to work and I'm thinking of others and what's in it for them,
Yeah.
what did I say? Generous, value-based, real. I come to work and I'm generous. I don't want to dump my shit over everyone if it's not appropriate. I don't want to make it all about me just for the sake of it. So I'm generous. I make it what's about them. I come from my values, which for me are things around respect and love and generosity and humanity. And I'm real in that I am willing to be vulnerable enough to not take my mood out on someone, but also say, like I said to you yesterday, oh, I feel a bit vulnerable today. I feel a bit funny and I want to be my best self with you, but I feel a bit at discern. I'll let you talk in a second. I promise it's your podcast. Be explicit, self-disclose.
Yeah.
And as human beings, we're not practiced. If the most clinical manager could simply bring on, don't even look at your stuff, don't even look inward, but if you can share with the person, like you said earlier, the intent for the conversation, the intent for the email, I respect you, I want you to do well, or I need this outcome for the business, I'm nervous about letting you know, or I hope I'll say this the right way. That level of humanity is life-changing for the person working for that manager.
I think like a word I would use is just be valuable. Like in a sense, you bring your values to work. It's because your value as a person, like what was instilled to you as a kid, your parents, like how life has shaped you for the good, for the better. Like if you bring those values to work and it's about translating that and actually make that your principle. And that is what true authenticity is. And the only disclaimer there is you just have to be careful because it might get lost in translation.
Okay.
So
say more.
So I think if you think your values is X, but then you try so hard to corporatize it, gosh, I hate that word. It morphs into something that is not palatable. Right. So I think if you're true to your values, honesty, generosity, like that sort of thing, if you bring that same value to work, like I don't think you can go wrong if you're generous with your time, if you're generous with your, your mentorship, or if you're a leader, like, and if your values is being like open and honest, and like truthful, and being like really and caring, like you automatically create within your zone, within your reach, that psychological safety that everyone thrives on.
Yeah, and you know what I just thought? That is so beautiful. The word valuable, like I think you should TM it, because it could actually be a word that is used, like we can talk more about that. That is perfection, because it's got the two meanings coming from your values, and then your most valuable. You know what I thought as you're speaking? You do not have to be a heart-centered person to have this same valuable approach that will have positivity for other people. All you have to be is honest.
Yes.
If you're a hard ass that is goal-oriented and just wants to get promoted and make money, if you come in as that but are real about it,
yes,
there's total safety there.
Exactly.
If my boss said to me, listen, love, I know you're all about the heart and woo-woo and all that shit, right?
Yes.
I'm not. This is the result I need from you.
But how much respect would you have?
And ease.
Same.
Do you remember, I don't know if I may have been, you were, because I trained you at Astra, so I had been there earlier. We used to have a head honch. Don't know if he's still around. Hello, Brian, if you are. And he was a total hard ass, and his name was Brian Nichols, and he was a very senior manager.
Before my time.
Okay. When I first started, he was the head honch, sort of the overall manager. He wasn't CEO of Australia, but maybe one below. He was perfection, because he would come into a conference or whatever else, and he would say, I need you to see this many doctors a day. I need you to see this many pharmacists. I need you to work this many hours minimum. I need you to work hard, play hard. If you do all the things I'm asking, you will be rewarded. If you do not meet what I'm asking, you will be fired. Is everyone clear? We go, yes, Brian.
Look, do you know, it's really funny. Direct as that may sound, there's a certain element of me that's actually quite turned on by the bluntness.
It was
in the nicest
so
way.
Free.
Huh.
I got it. And maybe it suited my personality more than someone else's.
Same.
But the clarity, and then if you did well, you got an email saying that you did well. You got a dinner voucher, which was always very exciting. He knew who we were. He was very tough, very goal-oriented, very profit-oriented, but he admitted it. If I think of different bosses...
Don't mask it. Like don't
mask it.
Don't hide your true intention. People can sense, authenticity. People can sense fakeness from a mile away. You don't need to say, how some people say, I've got a good, strong bullshit meter. It's like, no, everyone, even if you can't call it out, there's some discomfort that you feel.
Yeah.
And that is, when you can't put your finger to like a person, it's like there's something not quite, can't read them. It usually comes from the fact that they're hiding their true intentions.
That's right. And you can, because we're animals that are very, very sensitive to body language and all the rest, they will say something, but we'll get a different feeling. And when those two things mismatch, our antenna goes up and we feel off.
Yes.
Do you know when Brian was at Astra, so I started with the company Astra, Swedish company, pharmaceutical company. Was it still Astra when you joined, or had it become AstraZeneca? Okay, so for Astra, I used to say Astra, the way Brian or it was led, it was like an iron fist. So it was very, very clear, very, very tough, but clear. When AstraZeneca became, I said it was like an iron fist in a velvet glove where you couldn't see the iron anymore, but it hurt as much if it punched you.
Yeah.
The reason that I mention it is what I'm thinking as we have this conversation, and it's becoming clearer as we talk, is one of the great difficulties of our current time is we're in a time of, dare I say it, political correctness, wokeness, psychosocial risk. Does it actually make a difference in the heart of people? Often it doesn't. What it does is make people who are not interested in care get tougher internally, but pretend they're not. Say the right things, do the right things. The people with any level of antenna, which is the majority of humans, pretty much, unless you're a psychopath, sociopath, you're going to be picking up the wrongness. So everyone's picking it up. And instead of being straight and going, I am interested in profit, I understand I need to look after you as a person because I need good I need people to stay. I need people to be happy. But I've got to tell you, I will look after you, but I want you to make money for me. I want you to get this outcome. I think there has to be benefit in that reality versus secretly I care about profit. I'm not interested in cultural differences. I'm not interested in anything human. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say all the right words, but they mean nothing. Isn't that where the heartbreak really happens?
Yeah, it is. It is. I have a colleague that I used to work with, and she's moved on now. She's moved to another company, and she's doing great things. But she's harsh.
Okay.
Yeah, she's harsh. But what I love about her is she is harsh. She tells people. She's honest.
Okay.
She's honest, and she never sort of disguises the fact that these soft skills, this human touch, is so not her.
Got it.
And what I like about it is that she is this exact same person at home as well. So she has daughters, and I can never imagine her being the kumbaya sort of type mum.
No.
She gives them just like the honest truth. She told her daughter once, and I think I can share this daughter once. I says, "Well, you are a bit weird, which is probably why your friends think you're weird as well." And there's like it's so honest, and she would carry that same honesty to work. And I admire that so much.
So let's test it. If she said something harsh to you or straight to you, you already respect her. Is she the kind of person that if you said, well, that was a bit much for me, if I would call everyone Mary, so we'll call her Mary, that was a bit much for me, Mary, or I found that a bit tough, is she the kind of person that is good enough to take that feedback?
Oh, 100%.
See, that's the key.
100%. So she took that feedback, and I've given her that feedback once, and I said, can you just say that softer? Like, I literally called her out on it once, and even for someone who loves directness, she goes, you know what I mean though, don't you? When I say that, I said, no, explain. And she did, and it was like, right, okay, it was just so she takes feedback on very well.
Yeah.
And
so
I think that is important.
It's
right?
the key, because if someone has that kind of harshness about them, there's one harshness or one, well, look, this is who I am. That's a lot of people's excuse for their behavior. This is how I am. For that kind of person, if she says, this is how I am, but she can be challenged, she can be authentic, she can reduce her ego, perfect. The different kind of harsh person who says, this is how I am, but when you go to give feedback back, there is no opportunity, no opening, no safety. There's just a complete power imbalance. And because their behavior isn't actually okay and is too abrasive, if they can't get the feedback, hey,
yeah,
could you say that a bit differently? Then you've got a problem.
Well, that's a different thing, right? Like,
totally.
I just think that's just sort of coming from, I think that's ego. That's a lot of ego sort of saying, no, like, it's my way is right, and I refuse to change, like, and that, yeah, that's not a valuable person.
No. And you've raised a perfect topic around how to be valuable or not valuable. And the valuable person is coming from their heart. The non-valuable person is coming from their ego. We all have egos, but when the ego is really, really running the show, which it certainly has for large swathes of my life, it is about getting it right, protecting an image, keeping people at bay, having no safety. I did a course recently and I was so sad because we got into pair sharing as a part of it. And this beautiful woman who I'd liked from the beginning and had shared quite a lot, she said, my first impression of you is that you look very put together. You look quite beautiful in what you're wearing. But I feel, she said, I feel a coldness, or I feel a barrier.
Oh, wow.
I know. And I hated it. And I got what she was saying, because if I look at the technique I use to protect myself the majority of my life that I still can use, it creates, what do you call it? Unapproachability, a sense of, I'm all right, Jack. Don't. I think what I can do, which is really disappointing, and I get it wouldn't be your experience or a lot of people's experience of me, but at times I think, you know what it is? If I don't know people and I feel a level of unsafety, I will put on the protective shield, and the protective shield is confident, friendly, but friendly, unapproachable friendly, put together, well dressed, well spoken. And when I look at that and what she said, I thought, why have I got that going on? Because I'm scared to be vulnerable. In this case, the professional person that isn't being valuable in your language is got the mask and the protector, and that is running the whole show.
And I want to pick up on something you said about, like if you sort of lead with heart, and I think and there's such a misconception. People keep thinking, oh, if I'm a leader, if I'm a GM, if I'm a CEO of a big company, if I lead with heart, then people are going to deem me as weak.
Yes.
And it's such a misnomer. Like I just feel like, why? It's like, what? And I dare say it's there's more men feeling like that.
Yes.
And then, like for the women who feel like that, they're probably coming from a fact, well, like it's bad enough leading something because I'm a woman, like everyone's going to be out there to attack me. So if I come across as cold, like no heart, like really icy, then I'm going to get this game, right? I'm going to, but it shouldn't be like that.
It's because there's a complete misunderstanding between kindness and niceness. Kindness and passivity. So what's got mushed together is the word kind or heartfelt or human has been seen as weak and passive and not doing what needs to be done.
Hence soft skills.
If a manager is kind, they are going to manage much more toughly, for want of a better word, than a cold manager. A kind manager will see where someone's not performing and they'll give them feedback. A kind manager will set clear boundaries as to expectations. A kind manager will say, Tam, that behaviour in that meeting wasn't okay. I'll tell you why. I'm on your side, but don't do that again.
And also a kind manager will understand your struggles, like if you have problems at home, like that sort of thing, and actually give you the allowance to slack if you've got like some real, like issues. And I think that is important for the employee.
Yes.
Like for that psychological safety.
Yes.
For that I still feel valued.
Yes.
Because, like no one, well, I would like to think so. Like no one would go to work wanting to do a half-assed job.
No.
Like they all want to perform naturally. People just want to perform.
Yes.
Right? And if something is stopping them from performing, an external factor, a family member, hardship, whatever, if you have the understanding of the leader, then what you get is actually someone who feels safe and will give you tenfold when his or her life sort of sorts itself out. Do you know what I mean?
And because I always like to bring it back to hard facts for people that aren't so interested in just the beauty of the heart, if that person stays and thrives and grows, if the company does the maths on what it is to support that person, potentially them having a bit of leave or reduced hours for a period of time, it'll be a minusculely smaller amount than what it would be to replace them. And then if you look at the productivity, like you said, their loyalty and all the rest, that manager will get absolute gold out of that person. And I can think of managers I've had who I've loved. Some have been very heart driven and some have just been authentic, and I will work a lot harder. I haven't been an employee for a long time, but I was an employee for long enough to think of the difference if I felt that the manager was on my side or not, if I cared about the manager, if I understood the manager. You said again very kindly that people don't come to work to do a half-assed job. I have to disagree with respect. There are people, because of their upbringing and because of what they've been taught, it's still an ego-based thing. Don't be taken for granted. Do as little as you can. Get away with what you can.
I didn't see it from that point of view.
Well, it's exactly the opposite of our value set. So it'd be very hard to see it. It's not that they're a bad person. It's that exactly the same upbringing that had us both work hard and be generous.
That's
had
true.
them not, right? And their
true.
parents said, look, get what you can, give as little as you can. Life isn't about work. It's about your family. Get the money you can. Do a half-assed job.
Yeah, and some people treat a job just as it is, like a job. What other people sort of like, it's their life. is their purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I would say, if you look at, I had Tasha Broomhall on the podcast, and her episode will come out soon, and she does actually, this conversation based with Tammy's and hers and Tanya's, because they're talking about psychological safety, psychosocial risk, how to get the best out of employees, how to be a good leader. It's actually this fantastic, what do you call four babies? Quadruple episode where the themes intertwine. The reason,
like a perfect quartet.
You are a perfect. Now I've got the instruments right. Yeah. When she talks about the need for greater systems, she did a PhD on psychological safety and got fantastic information around this systems thinking that needs to be in play. But she actually talked about, even if the systems aren't in play, as the manager, people want autonomy, purpose, recognition, and as Andy and I would say, team collaboration. You can have the most schmozzly system running, and as the manager, if you honour the person, if you give them purpose, autonomy, respect, there's a team. We've all seen it. Messy companies with a very successful team where the manager has been able to protect them, create strength, create beauty, create productivity.
And still be a high-performing team.
Absolutely high-performing. They'll often be this little in the company.
They'll be like the outlier.
The outlier. And even though the company recognises for some reason that team is the most successful financially or in tenure or anything else, because it's seen under the banner of soft skills, the greater manager might challenge that they're too friendly or they're too soft. When they look at the figures, they'll see it as a blip that team is. It is not a blip.
Yep.
Right. So you've done valuable instead of authentic. Perfect. TM Alvin Quah. Now, what are we going to do with soft skills? I was playing with it with Tammy Tansley. I said crucial skills. She said fundamental skills, but then she didn't like that. What shows the toughness of it?
I would call it foundational skills.
Okay.
Just because they are the foundations, and without them,
nothing can.
You can't function.
Well, they're actually, I love that, because they're the foundation to humanity, which of course we care about, but even the most hard-ass financially focused success manager, if you know that they're the foundation to you getting the success you want, you getting the money you want, your company getting the profit shares you want, they are the foundation to that, and they are the most courageous thing to do.
Look at us coming up with terminologies.
You're the one, man. This is why you must continue to be in the world, writing, talking, speaking.
Gosh, I love this world.
Your language, you encapsulate what I'm trying to say. It would have never occurred to me to call authenticity valuable, and it's the perfect twofer.
Isn't it?
Perfect twofer. That's why TM. I don't know how we protect it.
Patent pending. I say that to my husband all the time when I come up with something. Patent pending.
That's right.
You can't use it unless
you can't use it. You can't use it. I said it first.
You've heard it here first.
Valuable and foundational skills. And it could be topics that you talk about, separate or entwined.
Yeah.
I can now use the term when I'm training in soft skills.
Yes.
I also made a point speaking.
I would like you to say valuable TM Alvin Quah.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Absolutely. I'm totally up for that. I am a supporter.
I know.
I like to be the wind beneath your wings.
Oh, you are so much more than that. You're my other wing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
If you could sing that song for me one time.
Oh my God.
On a recording. Can you sing?
Oh gosh, I don't want to admit yes or no in case I do sort of sound bad.
I think you can.
I used to be in the Science Student Music Society.
Wish I could be. Oh my God, now I'm going back to beaches. Let's watch beaches. We'll watch it and talk on Zoom.
Yes.
So we've got valuable, we've got foundational skills. Now I have to say this because it needs to be in the world, and this is the where is it appropriate or not. Everyone says grow a pair of balls if you're going to be courageous. Don't be a pussy if you're going to be weak. Could we be more confused?
Oh my God.
Look at the sensitivity of balls. They cannot take anything. They even have to have their own little world separate from the body so that the perfect temperature. Pussy is a vagina that can literally have a baby with a head this big come through it and
Oh,
survive.
I
How
have never.
confused are we?
I don't think that's confusion. I thought I was going to go something stronger. That is very, very sexist.
It's
You
the
know, it's like
patriarchal
it
society
is the
that I never
patriarchy,
talk
right?
about.
It's like, like you're courageous if you grow a pair, and
Yes.
if you're weak, you're a pussy.
Right.
That's actually a good one. So we need to sort of come up with something else.
I know. And
wow. Oh, just call it as it is. Like,
Right?
just be courageous. Like, like
Yes.
just I don't know, just yeah.
It does sound odd to say be a vagina to be
Yeah.
courageous.
Yeah.
I don't feel
Maybe
like that's
not.
going to catch on.
Well, I don't think we should sort of associate with any body part because
Okay.
that automatically distincts, like distinguish like man from woman, right?
Mhm.
But maybe we can, well, if we want to sort of pick an organ, so maybe it should be like, like have a heart,
Yeah, have a heart.
like, yeah, like it could be
Or
something.
I like have guts
Yes.
because guts is both intuitive, like what comes from our gut, and we're learning more and more about the power of the gut and that it's the second brain. Every sex,
the
every they
microbiome
have
and
guts.
yeah.
Just have guts.
Yeah.
And then if someone says grow a pair or someone says don't be a pussy, you and I can challenge that.
Well, why don't we change it to don't be an asshole? Everyone has one.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Someone said something to me once that's really funny. It's like opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one.
So perfect.
So yeah, it's like, like have some guts.
Yeah, have some guts.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
Mm.
Oh, it's never too late to stop being a dick. But that's sexist too. Isn't it interesting? We really love
Actually,
genitalia for
we do love genitalia.
insults and also for compliments. I mean, look at the C word. That has got a whole world
that
of
is
compliment, not compliment. RuPaul, they say
Yeah.
cinty, I don't want to say the word, as being powerful.
Someone switched that once. It's like this comedy that I was watching. I can't remember what it's called now. But instead of big dick energy, they call it big C energy. It's like, oh
yeah. I think we come away from the genitals.
Yes.
So
yes.
okay, so we are brave warriors in this world with compatriots who are also brave warriors who are trying to be Sisyphus. If someone is in the world of come on, man. People do get this message. People tell you and me and other brave warriors that they are getting assistance from these themes. Really, if one is listening and is anywhere on the spectrum of caring to not, what are we fundamentally trying to say? Be real, be generous, be honest, be valuable. There's no more to say, surely.
No.
Thank you for being here. If you can tell, I have got Alvin's glasses on. Alvin has got Alvin's glasses on.
And I promise you, I'm wearing pants. They're just shorts. Sorry, I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing shorts. So I do have something on the bottom.
Appropriate for the bed.
So appropriate.
He also does leg day, so
it
all works. Thank you for being here. Do yourself a favour.